Okay, well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mariana, and I am one of Jenny's trainees. Um, Today we're going to be talking about section H of the task list, and I do have an agenda that I want to share with you all. I'm not sure, Krista and Jenny, if you all had an opportunity to review it before tonight. For the rest of you, it's okay if you didn't. I'm going to go ahead and go over everything that you need to know. The first thing is I do have some questions for us to think about before I go ahead and kind of dive into our topic of the day. The first question is, what are the steps needed after we receive a referral or case? So again, these are just questions to kind of get our heads wrapped up on what we're gonna dive in tonight. The second question is, what are the minimum requirements for a program protocol? Um, Again, what are the essentials? What is something that we can't miss in a protocol? The other question to kind of think about is, what are the essential pieces for a meaningful protocol? Because we can have so many pieces and so many things in a protocol, but do we want to have meaningful items in our protocol? So just kind of think about that. And then the last question is, what if we don't have all the necessary materials during our program implementation? So this is where the ethics part of our topic here is going to be headed towards. We have to think about the what could go wrong and how we can better kind of support ourselves and our team and our client so that we're meeting our ethical requirements. And again, these are just questions to kind of get our heads wrapped up on what's coming. The second part of our agenda is I listed all of the task list items that we're going to tackle today. And as you can see, it's all of section H. And I'm going to go and review all of them in a bit, but I just listed them here for us for our review. And then I'm going to go ahead and present a case study for tonight. We're going to read it together. And based on this case study, we're going to talk about the steps after we receive a referral or a case. After we discuss the steps, we're going to dive into what should a meaningful protocol have? What are the essential pieces of a meaningful protocol for a program? After we review the protocol, we're going to go ahead and dive into our ethics. And I do have a scenario that I'm going to share with you all. And after we review the case study and we kind of share ideas on our ethics, we're going to go ahead and kind of just wrap our heads together and kind of discuss what sections of the ethics code it involves in this case study. And then the last part is I do have some homework for us. It's not a requirement, but I would like for us to spend some time in just kind of reviewing some samples of protocols that I worked on. And then just for the next discussion or for our next group, we'll briefly talk about what are those protocols missing. Any questions for tonight? So this is what we'll be covering. I know it's a lot of information, but it's going to be fun and we're going to make this very meaningful. Any questions? And I'm sorry, I am a little sick, but it's going to be fine. We're going to get through this. Okay, cool. So if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and start with our case study. Does anybody care to read the case study? Anybody want to volunteer to read it?
I can read it for you.
Thank you. It's too small for my tired eyes.
But can you share this agenda form with me? I don't have access to it.
You don't have it? Okay.
Well, so you have it, but not access to copy it?
Share with others. Let's see.
That's not my email.
Oh, I see.
Oh, bummer. Sorry.
Sorry,
It's
Krista.
really close. It's 14. It's the same, but
Oh,
instead of 11, it's
no.
14.
Okay, well, let me see.
You want me to share it with her?
Yes, please.
Okay, yep, I'll take care of it.
Sorry. Okay. So Jessica is a 12-year-old female student. Information changed for confidentiality purposes at a self-contained autism spectrum disorder focused year-round school. She presents with global delays in all areas of functioning. Jessica has been receiving ABA services since early 2013. However, the number of hours designated for direct service and parent training, as well as the education levels of therapists, have varied widely. At the first assessment, Jessica showed the most significant skill deficits in the area of functional communication. Specifically, she was unable to make her wants and needs known to others in a consistent or reliable way. At times, this resulted in challenging behavior, including aggression, destruction, and elopement. Overall level of functioning was estimated to be that of a 15-month-old.
Thank you so much, Krista. Yeah, so this is our case study for the night. We are going to be basing our protocol and also our ethics scenario on this case study. So as you can see, Jessica, she's a 12-year-old client with the functioning age of a 15-month-old. So that's one of the biggest takeaway. Her areas of need are basically her communication areas. So after we receive a referral or a case, what are the steps that we have to implement in order to make a meaningful program for Jessica? So the first step is a pre-assessment. So in the pre-assessment, we're going to review the case. We're going to do an informal observation. We're going to do an interview with all the stakeholders, caregivers. We're also going to review the medical history and also the hearing history. This will give us a better idea of where our client is at the moment and what the concerns are coming from either teachers, again, caregivers, parents, and just looking at all the history from this client. After we do that, we're going to conduct an FBA to determine the function of the behaviors. And we're also obviously going to take into consideration feedback from the parents and stakeholders. After we conduct the FBA, we are going to choose our target behaviors based on the results of the FBA. And after we select, our target behaviors, also with a combination of feedback from parents and stakeholders, we're going to set goals, and the goals are going to be coming from, the concerns, where this client needs the most support. We're going to set goals, again, based on all the previous information. And then step number 4 is we're going to plan an intervention. With the planning of the intervention, again, we're going to take into consideration the parents and the stakeholders. And within the intervention plan, we're going to be taking data. We're going to be monitoring our data. And then step 6 is that we're going to review and retrain staff as needed and modify our program also as needed based on the data that we've collected. So basically, these are the steps needed. And after we receive a case, for our training today, I'm going to focus on step 4. Step 4 is planning an intervention. So based on our case study with Jessica, we're going to say that I conducted an FBA. Again, in that FBA, we realized that the area of concern is language. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go to my protocol. And then let me make this bigger for us. Okay. So this is our program protocol for our manding program. So again, we selected manding because based on her FBA results and based on the concerns that the caregiver and the parent has, we decided to focus on manding as one of her program protocols. One of the very first things that the program should have is basically a title. So manding protocol again is our title. And this covers section of H2 in the task list. And so for our title is going to tell us what we're going to be working on. When we think of a client, we are not only going to be focusing on one area of concern or one area of behavior that we want to increase or decrease. We're going to have a lot of programs. So it is important that we title our program protocols. It's one of the things that we cannot just say, we can't just leave as without a title. We have to title it for the sake of the client, for the sake of ourselves and our team, because like I mentioned, we're going to have a lot of titles and a lot of programs. The other thing that our protocol has to have is the client name. So a lot of companies do this different. Some companies prefer to, have the whole name. Other companies, do initials. My recommendation is to follow, what your organization has in place if they do have a protocol in place. But the point being is that we have to include our client's name in the protocol. The other thing that we need to include is the dates. So the time frame, the duration of the program. So in this case, we're going to be recording this program for March 2024. Let's see. I think I skipped one. Okay. I don't think I did. So the next thing is our goal. We want to be very clear with our goal. We want to make sure that it addresses, our area of concern based on our target, based on the goals that we want to work on, and that we can measure our goal. It's a goal that it's attainable, that it's measurable, that it makes sense for our client. In this case, we're going to do Jessica will spontaneously emit 15 different mands in her natural environment. Again, this was based on her FBA. The goal again should be clear and should be listed in the program protocol. This is something that cannot be missing. We have to include the goal in the program protocol. The other thing that is very helpful to have in a program protocol is the prerequisites. So what are the things that this client needs to have, or the staff members need to have or have met in order to make sure that we conduct this program protocol? In this case, the prerequisite is mand training should only begin when, number one, the instructor has gained instructional control. Number two, can control reinforcers without a problem behavior. Number three, ensures that they're well paired with the learner. And then number four, give reinforcers freely. And the last one, we need to make sure that the learner enjoys being with the staff member, that they look at the staff member, plays well with them, and tolerates them touching their highly preferred materials or toys, and that they stay in close proximity of them. What happens if we don't include a prerequisite? So, what if we have a sub staff joining a lesson or joining session for that day? Well, if we don't have a prerequisite and the staff member doesn't know that, in order to have to run this specific program, you have to be well paired with this client, because the communication in the communication or mand training, you really have to make sure that you have access to the reinforcers, and that in general, just having the client tolerate you is already, you know, a highly motivating thing. So if the sub comes in and goes directly to run these programs without having paired first with the client, what are the chances that they're going to be running a successful program? Very minimal, very minimal. So we have to ensure that, you know, we have the prerequisites. We let staff know what they need in order to set a successful environment, and make sure that they're running programs with a high chance of them being successful. Let's see. The materials. So for our program to be successful, we also have to include the materials. Part of the materials are the program page, which is this one that we're looking at. In this case for Jessica, we also need pictures or signed cards of 20 highly favored items or activities, items that Jessica enjoys during the day. The other aspect of our protocol that we cannot leave behind is data collection method. So with the data collection method, we want to, you know, be very clear with when and how this program should be run. So in this case, staff will record data at a minimum of 4 days per week after school. And they should be reflective of how many times Jessica requests an item or an activity. We're going to record a number in the row and record a plus if Jessica requests independently, record a minus if she does not request at all, and a P if staff prompt Jessica to request an item or activity, or a 0 if there is no opportunity to participate. So again, just having and being very specific with how we're going to collect our method is going to really set us up for success. And if we don't have this, we're not really going to have an accurate representation of what Jessica is doing and how she's doing it. So this is really important to include in the program protocol. Any questions so far? I know I'm going pretty fast. Any questions? No? Okay. Let's see. The next thing is methods and procedures. So methods and procedures are very important. Again, this is how we're going to present the instruction or the SD to Jessica. It's going to give us details on how we can say it, how we can present it, what we can count as correct or not correct. In this case, we'll see that staff should have a regular or assigned place to keep pictures in the cards. The parent or caregiver should have a backup stash of cards in case. Initially, when staff notice that Jessica wants one of the objects or activities that a picture is available of, they should show her the picture card. We can also point to the card and say, do you want the let's say iPad? Do you want the, I don't know, ball? We're going to encourage or prompt Jessica to touch or say, to say the name of the card or to touch the card. And then give the whatever Jessica is requesting to Jessica once she, you know, either, and something really important, when she signs it or she gives us a verbal request. So we got to be very specific here with what we're going to accept and what we're not going to accept. Maybe Jessica, you know, maybe we shouldn't accept Jessica's signs in this case, because Jessica can sign and she has a very low functioning level of communication. We have decided that signs are okay for Jessica. So, but if they weren't, we should also include this here. If in the case that we were not accepting them. And then one of the most important things is obviously we have to record our data here in our area to plot our data. It's important to list it because we could miss it. I mean, we could literally just have this here and staff could say like, oh, well, I read all this, but that's it. That's all my job. Although we all know that in the ABA field, data is the biggest part of our program, or at least one of the biggest parts of our program. But definitely including it in the program protocol is something that we should do. All these areas here cover sections of the task list H 4 through 9. So we're talking about data collection, what else? How we monitor our data, when we monitor our data and when we have data, we're going to make changes and decisions on different interventions based on the data that's, that we have, what's working and what's not working. But I'll touch base on that shortly. And then the other important aspect of our protocol, something that we should also have, and I want to highlight it, is just having a key, or having, again, how we're going to collect the data, or what we're going to input in our data collection here. It should be very easy and very eye-catching for staff to see. In this case, I've decided to kind of have it here in the key as a footer. Again, we have it here as a footer, just to make sure that it's simple to read, it's easy access, that the staff don't have to look for the data collection method or training procedures or anywhere where this how to record the data, but that it's there in simple, either bold or highlighted. Again, the plus for independent, the minus for couldn't get Jessica to do it, or the P for a prompt, or the 0 for no opportunity. The other thing that should be included in the program protocol is the programmer. So who is the BCBA? Who do I have to contact in the case that, there's multiple BCBAs in my organization? Who do I have to connect with if there's, some concerns that I have regarding this program? So having the programmer listed in the program protocol is also an essential piece of the protocol. In addition to that, the implementer is also another really important aspect of our protocol. We want to know what therapist, or who is a therapist running the trials. And then again, we want to have the month, the date, when was this, what day, with our clients and our populations, there's definitely different, times of days. There's different days of the week that our clients do good, that they do bad. So we just want to make sure that we include that there, and that our therapists are taking the time to also record the date, the month. And then here for our data collection, we want to make sure that we have a good reflection of what our data collection data should be looking like. In this case, we're going to include the date. We're going to include the client responses. And in these blank spots, we would include the cards, or the activities that, Jessica will be requesting. They could be the ball, it could be iPad, whatever the cards we have available for Jessica, those should all be included here. Computer time. And so we're doing 15 because, that's the first 15 days of the week of the month. And then we're going to pretend that our month goes up to 31 days. And again, we're going to have the same, the same items here for the other half of the month. And then again, just having our staff initials, making sure that we know who's taking the data, when they're taking the data. And again, just having the key here for easy access so that our therapist or the implementer doesn't have to go back and looking for the data collection method. So with all these items, we can cover all of our section H, each of our task list. Any questions so far? Lindsay? I think you're on mute.
I was just a little confused about when you're taking data, wouldn't she have more than one opportunity though to like request bulk, request iPad? So you're saying she would have 15 opportunities during the session, or
No, there's going to be multiple opportunities, but we're only going to be recording the first trial.
okay.
Yeah. And you're right. Maybe that's something really important to, you know, input here on the method and procedures. But for this patient, for this client, and I'm sorry, I say patient because I work at a clinic, but for this client, yes, it's going to be the first trial.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm going to leave it blank just here. Jenny, Krista, any other questions? No? Okay, cool. So with that being said, we're going to go back to our agenda. So we've already talked about, and we kind of I gave you guys an overview of what a good program protocol should look like. Really quick overview. I know that was very overwhelming and that was a lot of information. But number one, name of the program. Number two, name of the client. Number three, date for duration. What period of time is this program good for? Number four, what goals are we addressing? Number five, what are the materials needed to complete the program? Number six, how and when to collect data. Number seven, how and what to train on. Number eight, TA with prompting. And number nine, data collection method with the key. So again, simple. This is what a good program protocol should have. Anything that you guys feel that is missing? Is there anything that you agree, you disagree, or that you think that I didn't include? I'm open to feedback on that.
So Lindsay and Krista, I know you guys work in different situations. Lindsay, your protocols are probably all in somebody's tablet somewhere. And Krista, you're running on the fly trying to address kids all around whatever elementary school you're working in. Do you see the majority of these pieces in the programs that are run in your work site?
I see almost all of these. What I think is lacking sometimes is one, like keeping up with materials, since my kids are changing locations sometimes now. And so there needs to be multiple copies of like first thins and token boards and things like that, or a way for them to travel with them better.
Pack your living room to go to clinic. Pack the clinic to go to living room. Yes.
Sometimes it seems that way. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Some of my
Okay.
kids are using like, they'll use like a PowerPoint for like pictures for them, but I honestly, I don't know, maybe I'm just too old or too old school or something, but I like them having a tactile thing to like point at or pick up or like bring to me, rather than just being like, oh, here's, here's the umbrella, I don't know. I think it's better to have pictures of it. And two, another thing I've been trying to encourage for my kids is like, I don't want just one picture of an umbrella. Like I want like a cartoon version of an umbrella, and I want like a real life version of an umbrella, and I want like, you know, the Minecraft version of the umbrella, or, you know, just whatever, so that they understand, especially my daughter who has trouble with that kind of thing. You know, these are all the same. At least
Yeah.
they're the same function. You know, this is all an umbrella in all these environments.
Great feedback, Lindsay. Thank you.
So mine, so as the teacher over paraprofessionals, yes, this is what I would set up for my paras or RBTs or whatever, for them to implement the goals that I've put into place. Now, do I feel like this is something that I see in the school setting on a regular basis? No. But there are a lot of these components embedded naturally into a kid's IEP. Not left open for interpretation. But I do agree with you, Lindsay, that like even in the school settings, a big struggle is the amount of materials. Do we have enough of everything for everybody? And then that, again, I like when you're like, I want a real picture and a Minecraft picture, and I like, that's how I do it, because the generalization of this item, like I don't want them to ever satiate and know that like this is what an umbrella looks like, when in reality it could be 9,000 things. Like a cat is a cat is a cat is a cat, but like so is a tiger, so is a jaguar, so is a cheetah, so is and so like them being able to transfer that knowledge across different settings and things like that. I think those are important things that could be even added into a manding protocol, like specifically for this case study. Like, and then also like, are we accepting like approximations of signs or vocal approximations of the mands, or are we only, because like if we're saying buh, but we're not saying ball, or we're, instead of signing ball, or something like that, like where's the distinction of the hard yes and the hard no, and then when do we use to be the learning moment, or like that teachable moment, and use the NET to keep going and take it another step further.
Yeah.
But I like it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very thorough and like really awesome. I was like a little curious about like only like tracking the first prompt or first,
The first trial.
because like, yeah, the first trial, because like oftentimes the first trial every time, even if it's something my kids know really well, is like full verbal prompt. I mean, it's Monday morning, it's a full, you know, assisted, you know, hand over hand prompt, because you know, we're just getting started. And then after that, I might nail it every time. But just for whatever reason, that getting started is
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's very valid. Yeah, thank you, Lindsay and Krista, both for sharing the feedback. And I agree. I think that one of the biggest, issues is the materials. And talking about our materials, our ethics case study for the night is about materials. So we're gonna dive into that. Does anybody want to read our ethics case study, or should I just go ahead and tackle it? Okay, I'll go ahead and tackle it.
I can read it.
So for our ethics case for tonight, Ronnie is a sub therapist covering a case for a 12-year-old girl named Jessica. Today is Ronnie's first day of providing services to the client. Ronnie spends the first half of the session building rapport with Jessica. Once he realizes he has paired well with Jessica, he reviews the manding program protocol for Jessica. He looks for the materials, but he does not find them. Ronnie asks Jessica's caregiver, and they insist they don't know where the materials are. Ronnie decides to not run any programs for the day. however, decides to fill in the program data collection as negative or minus, 4 does not request an item. Ronnie then decides to omit that the materials were missing in the notes for his day and leaves the home for the day. Wow. So for our group discussion, I want us to kind of just take a few minutes and think about what are the ethics involved in this scenario. And I do apologize. I did send this over on Friday, but Krista, I just realized I sent you the wrong email. So you guys,
I'm on this.
we can take a few minutes to kind of just kind of think about what are the ethics that are involved in this case, or if you guys want to do it as a group discussion, we could do that too. And I'm
Yeah,
going to stop sharing.
Well,
I was gonna say, will you open the ethics code?
Sure. I have that here.
I mean, can we just start by saying first and foremost that ethics code 1.01 of being truthful, if
Yes.
it's your first violation there, you were not truthful and
Lindsay,
Agree.
accurate
it's
in what
coming
you were
for
doing.
you.
I think it's a little rough to be so on the RBT, because it's the BCBA's responsibility to make sure that materials are going back and forth. And also, I know a lot of the RBTs that spend a lot of time in my house, they get in trouble if they don't have X amount of data points. Like, they're in trouble. And I think that's so wrong. Like, why? You're almost forcing them to fake data to have the appropriate amount of data points. Now I understand, like, hey, an ideal range is, you know, XYZ. We don't want to be sitting here when we could be running program. But I have seen and caught RBTs like making notations, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So it didn't happen. And don't get me wrong, like when the BCBA comes to my house, I don't throw them under the bus. I get where they're coming from, but you know, I don't know if like Ronnie is in that situation where he's like, here I am, I'm subbing for this kid and I don't have my materials and I need 25 data points before I leave. So what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a valid point, Lindsay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
I think that's a very valid point. Like,
yeah.
I completely agree. I like to play, I don't want to say to play devil's advocate to that, but as an RBT going in, you should already have some sort of ideal of what, even if you are a sub, because I mean, like, they don't put substitute teachers in a classroom who've never been, well, they do put ones that have never been in a classroom, but like don't know what, they don't know like the first thing about walking into it as a sub that has never been an RBT before, when they don't know what they're doing. Like, it would be somebody with experience. And I mean, maybe it's just me, and I just carry around a bag of things everywhere I go, and my car looks like a classroom in the back. But like, I always, it doesn't matter. And I guess maybe that's because I've done all these years in education, and so I've been through all the grade levels and all the things. But like, if I didn't have the specific cards that were items or whatever, he still could have used the natural environment and used something throughout the home or whatever, and still used it as an opportunity to collect data. And then just documented or listed, you know, like, couldn't find materials, these were the things we, you know, attempted manding for. And I mean, like, if we're looking at somebody who truly needs to work on functional communication, we would want them to be able to man for water or restroom or cup or snack. I don't know, something from their home, if that's where this is, if they're in the home,
Mhm.
or, you know, whatever, even if they're in a clinical setting or a school or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, I'm not trying to say, Ron, I can make something out of nothing because I can. Like, it doesn't have to always, and then you just, because then you're skewing data, even if you are faking data points. I mean, it's just, that's a whole nother unethical whirlwind to fall down. But like, as far as like ethics specific standards, I wrote down 1.01 being truthful, because obviously he wasn't truthful, and then that comes back on the BCBA, that your data is not correct. I also wrote down 2.01, he wasn't providing effective treatment because wasn't providing treatment based off of the protocol. And then I said 2.08, communicating about the services that are being provided. 2.17, collecting and using data. And then 3.01, responsibility to clients. Like, if you're in a clinic or in the home setting and you're billing insurance, like, you have that responsibility to provide services at all times to clients. And if you don't have the items necessary, then that comes back on you.
I
Yeah.
will like to say is, like, as a BCBA, you will have RBTs who have never been in certain situations. I was put with a client my first day after I received my RBT certification. I was put with a completely nonverbal client. I had no idea how to use the talker. Had no idea. I had no pairing with him whatsoever, and was like, hey, go into this, basically a closet, which I don't work at this clinic anymore for this reason, but basically go into this closet for the next 5 hours and run all these programs for this kid, and I need 125 data points. And that happened to me on my first day.
Wow.
Wow, that's horrible.
And so it does happen. And I do think that, of course, you can create something out of nothing. Of course, you should be able to not completely make up data. No one wants that. But I have seen people who have never met my children show up at my house and come in, and, you know, here they are, like, you know, and I'm like, hey, okay, we're having her read this book. And, you know, they just assume that my kids can't do it. I'm like, no, she absolutely can read that book. She absolutely can write this calendar page. I need you to make sure she does it. And, you know, so it does happen, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, just because the need for RBTs and BCBAs is just really great. And you find the really good ones really quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
find- You find
Yeah.
the ones that really want to do it versus the ones who don't.
Definitely. Thank you, Kristen, Lindsay, for sharing all of that information. That was great. One that I also want to touch base on is Section 4 in the Ethics Code, responsibility to supervisees and trainings, accountability and supervision, 4.04. I think that as a BCBA, we need to make sure that you know, our supervisees are doing the correct things, and if they're not, then we're not. So, you know, the BCBA should also, you know, uphold that code of ethics in Section 4. But definitely all of them apply, right? So responsibility in supervision, responsibility to our clients, what is it? Responsibility in practice, and the last one, responsibility as a professional. So I think we can all agree that we cover, you know, we touch on a lot of the sections in the code of ethics in this scenario. What is one thing that we could do in this scenario in order, or what is one thing that Ronnie could have done differently, besides what Krista mentioned, you know, just kind of thinking outside of the box and having run in natural environment, or pulling out your phone and showing Jessica pictures of the items. What is another thing that Ronnie could have done? Lindsay?
He could have contacted his BCBA. She might have just said, hey, the pictures are in the drawer on the left.
Where we hide them so that they're there next week. Yes.
Yes, yeah, simple as that. I think just really, reaching out to the programmer and, letting them know, hey, this is going on. Is there any feedback? Is there any other information that the parent doesn't know, or that the parent forgot that they're not sharing with me? Another thing that I always had when I was an RBT is our supervisor always gave the parent at least 2 extra, deck of cards or extra materials. Here, this one's for you to run when you're in the car, when you're, when you need it. This is for backup for the therapist. So just having extra materials always is always going to save us. But I definitely do not support Ronnie and his decision to not reach out to the BCBA, and also to omit that information in his notes. I think that if he would have paired with Jessica, if there was really no way for him to take data, then at least include it in the notes. Being truthful and including it in the notes is something that Ronnie should have also done.
Yeah,
Anything
because
else? Mhm.
your data provided a 0 for no opportunity. So there should have been
Yeah.
zeros instead of minuses.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Mhm. Yep. Anything else that you guys can think of before we close out for the case study?
Can I make a supervision comment?
Sure.
Because you guys are learning this because you're going to go be that BCBA who is supervising Ronnie, right? And so knowing that this happens, knowing that there's a better way to do it, for you guys, the question's going to be, well, how do I train and program and establish all of the things so that Ronnie doesn't end up in a situation where he wants to cheat the system, right? Lindsay, you were saying 125 data points. That's insane. There's a whole deal on what is the expectation for subs. And the more that I hear stories from you guys, I realize I've worked for some amazing companies, because when we had people go in as subs, probably 90% of the time they actually got some training about the learner's goals before they showed up, and tips and tricks and hints. You're only going to be there for the day. The other thing that they got was we I don't know, negotiated, bargained, informed, educated the insurance company that we're going to have these days that have no data because somebody's filling in for consistency's sake, and they're going to do pairing. We advocated hard for 2 weeks of pairing when new techs were starting with a family. It's like, yes, we're going to be on zeros for 2 weeks because we're not taking any data. We're playing with this kid and trying to figure out how the two of them work together. But that took a lot of on the phone, on the Zoom, on the whatever, advocating with the insurance provider to say, look, this is why this is going to look like this. But so those are just some things for you guys to consider, because you're going to be the supervising behavior analyst for Ronnie and for Jessica. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, with that being said, I do have some homework for the next group. Really quick, nothing, out of this world. And some of the questions to look for, or the goal for the homework is, handing you guys or providing you with these 2 protocols that I kind of just tweaked a little. And so just kind of reviewing it, and based on our information for tonight and what we learned, what are the following protocols missing? Do they provide all the information needed for an effective program intervention? So there's 2 copies here. We can briefly review them. But basically, there's just some modifications here on these data sheets. Where's the other one? There's the first one and the second one. This one's a little blurry. Okay, that's a little better. But yes, just definitely reviewing it. Again, it's not gonna take a lot of time. And during our next supervision, we'll just do a little quick check-in to see what your thoughts were on this. And again, just looking for the things that we talked about during our training for tonight, which were, does it have a title? Does it have the name of the programmer? Does it have the data collection method, the duration, the goals? Are the goals clear? It's just some things to look for. And with that being said, does everyone have the copy of this agenda before I turn it to Jenny? We're good? Okay. So with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me tonight on this review of Section H. I hope you all learned a little or a lot of this presentation.